Hi, this is Joey C., and I'm making my first Toronto Mike.
Your first Toronto Mike what?
Preview?
Your first Toronto Mike appearance.
Interview.
Luckily, this is not improv tonight. Okay, Joey, let's get into this, buddy. Let's do it. That's okay. You passed the audition.
Toronto. I'm in Toronto where you wanna get a city love. I'm from Toronto where you wanna get a city love. I'm in Toronto like we wanna get a city love. My city love me back for my city love.
Welcome to episode 1829 of Toronto Mic'd, an award-winning podcast, proudly brought to you by Great Lakes Brewery. Order online at greatlakesbeer.com for free local home delivery in the GTA. Palma Pasta. Enjoy the taste of fresh, homemade Italian pasta and entrees from Palma Pasta in Mississauga and Oakville. Visit palmapasta.com for more. Fusion Corp's own Nick Iones. He's the host of Building Toronto's Skyline and Building Success, two podcasts that you ought to listen to. RecycleMyElectronics.ca. Committing to our planet's future means properly recycling our electronics of the past. And Ridley Funeral Home, pillars of the community since 1921. Joining me today, it's improv expert. Just kidding. This is my new friend, FOTM Joey C. How you doing, Joey?
Great, buddy. I'm happy to be here, and I'm hoping you're having a Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. What's the last day I'm allowed to say Happy New Year to a guest?
Done.
Today.
Today.
January 5th. Okay. I remember a Curb Your Enthusiasm, and I'm pretty sure Larry David said January 7th. But you say, Joey C. says...
No, but January 6th is the Epiphany, so we're actually on the 12th day of Christmas today.
Okay.
Drummers drumming.
Okay, today the drummers... I got drumsticks here, Joey, if you want to borrow them.
There you go.
Okay. How often do people meet you by singing Joey by Concrete Blonde? Like, Joey.
Not very many.
No, am I the only one who thought that that's the natural greeting for...
Well, I do get the odd reference like Pal Joey from the movie.
Wait.
That's my Pal Joey.
What movie is that from?
From the movie Pal Joey.
Oh, you know what? What year approximately are we talking
Frank
about?
Sinatra.
Okay, so...
Way back, before you.
Before my time, but you
Before
know,
your
a lot
time.
of movie. I just watched It's a Wonderful Life, so I'm not afraid to watch a movie before my time. But I should
It would've
look
been
up
after
Pal
that.
Joey.
It would have been after that.
Okay, probably 50s.
Yeah, 50s.
Okay, because It's a Wonderful Life. I think that's 41.
Actually, it was around 47, just after I was born.
Oh, you know, what's 40? Yeah, okay, you're the expert, Joey. I'm glad you're here. But I want to say hello to an FOTM who said, Mike, you need to chat up Joey C. Do you know who I'm talking about?
You were mentioned to me by Dave Charles.
Dave Charles. How do you know Dave Charles?
Oh, we go far back. He's been in the business as long as I've been. We're all in radio, back in the 60s and 70s, especially in the 60s. I was music director of CKFH Radio, and he was I think in Belleville, and then he was in Hamilton, and then he ended up at Chum.
Right, and at some point he helps launch the mighty Q107.
He sure did, and so did. I didn't launch it, but I was part of that because I had Record Week, the newspaper at the time, and we were around, so we were supporting Q107 when they first started.
Okay, we're going to cover a lot of ground, Joey. I'm going to need a bigger hard drive here because I was kind of digging in and I'm pulling some audio and this and that. And, the simple question I want to ask you off the top, for those who don't know the name Joey C., is what do you do for a living?
I make people happy.
Okay, I like you already.
That's my job. Everything I do is to put a smile on somebody's face and help them out in whatever direction they're going.
And along the way, you've been involved in music, both as a performer, as a promoter, you mentioned a program director at CKFH. I've got a bunch of questions about the music director. My apologies. Who was the program director when you were music director?
It was a guy by the name of Gary Plant, who I didn't get along with.
Okay. Is Gary still with us?
No, he's not.
Because that's the 60s, man.
That's the 60s. I was at that radio station actually from 67 to the end of 69, and I actually joined the station The last time the Maple Leafs won the Stanley Cup, and that was a great year because I was part of that parade. Because the station I was working for was CKFH, which was owned by Foster Hewitt.
Okay, of course.
And we were the hockey station.
Right.
So we were a big part of that big celebration.
Well, a couple of notes strike me here, and then I'm going to blow your mind with a little audio. But Bob Pulford passed away today.
Oh.
So we've lost
Oh,
another
really?
member of that last Stanley Cup team.
Yeah, well.
I know it happens. It happens. Shout out to Really Funeral
I'm
Home.
scared to look at my Facebook every day. I never know who's next. As long as I'm not on there, I guess I'm happy.
Well, you're here in the basement.
Thank
you. That means you're still with
place to
us.
be.
But just so you know, this program is sponsored by a funeral home.
Yeah,
so
okay, don't go there.
But you look. So one of the things about Dave Charles, and I want to say thank you to Dave because I know he's listening. But thank you to Dave for saying you got to talk to Joey C because I'm digging into Joey C, and I'm like, I do need to talk to this guy. Dave knows, he knows Toronto Mike, but Dave Charles, I know he's in his 80s, but the man looks younger than I do. Do you know his secret?
I have the same secret.
Okay, but how old a man are you?
I'm just turned 79.
Oh, you know what? You and Dave are drinking from the same fountain of youth.
I think we are.
Oh, is that Dave?
That's probably Dave saying.
Okay, let's
speak
see.
up or
So
something.
I'm going to blow your mind with a piece of audio, but
That's okay. I'm just going to shut this thing off.
I was going to say, if that's a call
should
you
have
want to
done
take on the air, depends who's calling you, right?
No, it's not a collecting thing, so I know that.
Okay, take your time there. I'm going to play a clip from CKFH. So
really?
it came to my attention, thank you to radio consultant and correspondent Mark Weisblatt for this FYI, but it was 25 years ago this week that Zoomer 740 launched. Just a fun fact,
Okay.
right? Next year, by the way, CFRB hits 100.
That's a milestone. Well, I've seen that go through a lot of stages. Yeah.
I think Dave Charles launched that station too.
Close,
Doing math over here. But okay, so 25 years ago, Zoomer 740 launches. The first morning man on Zoomer 740 passed away shortly after the launch of Zoomer 740. I'm going to play a clip of him, and I'm wondering if you remember this chap. So you ready to go back in the time machine with me? We're going back to 1967.
Oh, 67.
Were you
Okay.
at CKFH?
I was at CKFH at the time. Yeah.
Okay, so I got the right man here. Here you go. This is it's going a couple minutes, but I love this clip, so we're going to listen together.
Well, Bonnie and Clyde are ready for you, but are you ready for Bonnie and Clyde? Well, you better be, because they're arriving this Friday, the end of this week, at these famous players' theaters. The Imperial, Yorkdale,
Fulton?
Golden Mile, Runnymede,
Tom
Willow, the
Fulton.
Capitol, and
Is it
New
Tom
Toronto,
Fulton? Yeah.
and the number
The
5
Voice,
and TP Drive-In Theaters.
Afternoon
Onward
drive,
with
yeah.
the good sounds on number 2 radio.
Centennial Survey number 7.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see how long. Hold on here. I think we come out of this song in a moment here. Bear with me. Here we go.
Benton Wood on 1430. Give me a little sign, sweetheart. 2 minutes before 4 o'clock in number 2. In baseball, in the National League after 5 innings, it's St. Louis 4, Chicago 2. In the American League after 5.5, it's California 3 and Minnesota 2. Checking the weather forecast now for Toronto. Mainly cloudy tonight with showers and scattered thunderstorms. So boy, Wednesday, cloudy with showers and much cooler. Wind southwesterly 20 to 35, shifting Wednesday to northerly 25 to 40. The low tonight 58, 8 degrees higher than our low last night. And the high Wednesday, 62. Outlook for Thursday, fair and cool. Right now, the barometer reading in Toronto, 29.78 inches and falling. Winds from the south-southwest at 22 miles per hour, gusting to 33. Relative humidity, 51%. And our temperature down 1 degree in a seesaw thing in the last couple of hours, 71. The Toronto Weather Radar report for this hour shows showers in Parry Sound, Sudbury, and the North Bay area, which is all right if you don't live in Parry Sound, Sudbury, or the North Bay areas.
This hour on the Big Kahuna Show, you'll hear more music than anywhere else in Ontario.
CKFH, still number 2.
Still number 2. What are your thoughts as you listen to that?
Well, Tom Fulton was great, the Big Kahuna. I love that guy. And we spent a lot of time together because, he'd be there starting the afternoon show. And he at the same time he also started a hair salon on Yonge Street with his wife or his girlfriend at the time, and he used to cut my hair all the time.
Wow.
And the weird part is that up until then, my hair was basically curly at the times, right? Wavy, you know? And I always wanted to get rid of that. So it was him or his girlfriend. They straightened my hair with some kind of an iron, and it never went curly again. It was
Really?
straight. Yeah, I don't know. I always remember that actually happened. So that was that. Everybody had a side job, right?
Right. Side hustle.
A side hustle, and that was one of them. And the Big Kahuna, everybody had a name, and it was a family. When we were at CKFH, all the best guys were Don Daner, John Donaby. I mean, we were a family, you know. And going back to that program director, that Gary Pallant, I don't mind mentioning his name, he went head to head with me on a lot of things, and I couldn't take it anymore with him. So, but going back to the station, the number 2 radio was part of my the big 143 and number 2 radio were the monikers we wanted to use, and that was part of that development.
Wow.
Only because it made sense. I was a marketer. I was doing before I joined the radio station. I was already a DJ doing high school dances throughout the city for years, and I was writing for the Toronto Star, predicting hits. So I was one of the first columnists for the Toronto Star in music.
Oh, the Pick the Hits column.
Yeah. It was the Joey C predicts the hits, and that's what got me the job at FH, and took me out of a night shift job at the CIBC that I was working at for 4 years. And that wasn't the side hustle. That was the job. Everything else was a side hustle.
And then, Joey, you become the youngest music director ever in this country when Foster Hewitt hires you at CKFH.
I believe so. I was only like 18, 19.
I'd get T-shirts that just say, I was the youngest music director in Canada.
Does anybody care?
Well, you're talking to me. I care.
Oh, you were. You were the youngest music director, were you?
No, I care that you were.
Oh, I see. I care. Okay, got it.
Okay, so could we talk about picking the hits? So, I mean, you're in high school and you're a hit picker for Chum, right?
I started off, I was going to St. Michael's College, and in grade 9, I became the high school hit picker for that high school. So what Chum would do is send me a bunch of Chum charts, and I would get a survey happening with the students as who liked whatever. And then once a week, the station had a hit pickers. I think it was Dave Johnson that did that. And he'd bring on a different, he would mention the different high schools and what their big record is or whatever, that kind of thing. So that got me interested right away because being a hit picker, I went to the Chum hit picker parties where I met the Bo Marks, Bobby Curtola, that was back in 1959, 60, that was just the cusp right there. And I just stuck with that. And then when I left St. Mike's, I went to Western Tech, and I took the commercial course at Western Tech, and I became the hit picker for that school. And not only that, I was bootlegging records, selling records to kids of records they couldn't get their hands on. Because I had a lot of contacts in Buffalo, and people were I was into R&B a lot.
Right.
So R&B records were hard to get, and I was able to get them, and I'd sell them to the kids in my school as well as doing the hit
But all this,
pickers.
you're still a teenager.
I'm still a teenager, and while I was doing that, I was also getting prepped for this career by doing by doing the church dances up at the Junction, which was just north of the Western Tech, right?
Well, my two of my kids went to Humberside Collegiate. I know this area very well.
So I went to Western Tech, right? And my church was St. Paul's, the Apostle Church on Dundas. It was Little Malta, Maltese, right? So that's
You like the Pastitsis?
Oh yeah,
6 and 6.
All in all, they're great. I just ordered some
Malta
last
Bake
week.
Shop, man. I walk by it every week.
I ordered some last week, actually.
Well, shout out to my first best friend, J.K. at St. Cecilia's.
Oh, cool. So I remember St. Cecilia's.
Joe Cini, who later I found out it's supposed to be Chini, but for my whole life we called him Joe Cini.
Oh, yeah?
Proud Maltese guy who introduced me to the Pastitsis. Yeah. And shout out to that Jumbo Burger, man. That was a big event. We're going to Jumbo Burger, which was at Runnymede in Dundas.
Yeah, right. Yep.
I know Little Malta.
So that area, it was my grooming area for getting into the music industry. The dances at the church sort of primed me for what was coming ahead. So I used to do all the dances on Friday nights. I just using honestly God, all it was a regular Seabreeze record player with a microphone in front of it. You know what I mean? And I'd use
Keep
even
it simple.
the connections of the speakers that I put up. I don't know how I amplified that, but I did.
Well, that's funny.
And I did those dances, and I started buying turntables and then amplifiers, and then at the end of that would have been 62.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to turn 16, and I did what everybody should not be doing, is quitting school because you're 16 now, right? And that's exactly what I did. And I was a good student. There's no problem there. I was a good student, but I guess I had ADHD back then because I was always all over the place and doing things. I was never diagnosed, but I'm sure I was, right?
Sure.
And which was a good thing for me. I guess I have the good ADHD.
No, it can be a superpower.
Oh, it was for me.
For some people.
It was for
I
me.
speak from experience, my brother.
Yeah, there you go. So you doodle and you can't keep the attention in the school, and it's like, what am it would always hit me like, what am I doing here? Like, I need to be out there. I need to be doing this. I need to be doing that. And I came to realization, and I didn't finish high school. I'm proud to say it from my purpose, but in general, no, right? At least get college or something. But I was never going to make it there. And the final decision was made after I talked to my marketing teacher, who told me not to be published. But I told him the story, what I want to do, and he looked at me and he says, "You're doing the right thing." He says, "You're wasting your time here. You already know what you want to do.
Right.
You should do it." Meanwhile, the principal and everybody else was, oh man, they were all over me. No, you can't. Right. And there's a good story about that one too.
Hit me. I love good stories,
right,
Joey C.
So, it was Western Tech, and the principal says to me, well, my brothers went to school there too, and my real name is Camilleri, right? So
Very Maltese.
You know that's a Maltese name.
Very Maltese.
And so we were always known as the Camilleri brothers. And so, he gave me the third degree, like, you're going to be crawling back here, like, you're not going to make it out there. And I'm going, you don't know me, so I still quit. And I quit actually right after before school break, because my birthday was on December 16th, which was a couple weeks ago.
Happy birthday.
And thank you. And on January 9th, which is coming up, it would be 63 years ago, this January 9th, that I started my first dances. That was my first ventures and my official entry into being a professional DJ or being in the music business. So I labeled January 9th, 1963 as the day that I started in this business professionally.
Okay, is this Canadian Bandstand 63?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Okay, listen, because I've done my homework here, okay? So here's what blows my mind, because we haven't even got you to CKFH yet.
Oh, we're not even there yet.
But we've got you, just a recap here for everybody following along at home. Already as a teenager, okay, you're the hit picker for your high school, multiple high schools, but you're the hit picker for Chum. You're writing a column for the Toronto Star, pick the hits column. You're now starting up Canadian Bandstand 63, which is you DJing dances at all high schools across this wonderful city.
Well, I started doing these dances at the 3-Star Dance Club at Euclid College in Little Italy. Back then, it wasn't really Little Italy. It was just, it wasn't that great. but they had this dance hall with a dance studio upstairs, and I rented the studio from the hall from the studio, and the studio's cousin was Louis Malia, who was part of a band I did a lot of work with, and they're also Maltese, nearly all of them. And so we started there. So I say it's professional because I spent my money to rent a hall, do the printing, put up all the posters, do all the promotion, which I actually teamed up with CKEY at the time and JP Finnegan. And,
was Dave Mickey there?
Yeah, he was actually. And that was, that's ironic because I was doing stuff with Chum most of the time, and now I'm doing it with CKEY.
Competitor, right.
So they were the ones promoting me, and I was promoting them at the dances. So the idea of the whole dance was to mimic American Bandstand, and the structure of American Bandstand was to have people dancing and it's school kids, and they have at least one artist coming and performing, and just basically that's it. Except they had cameras. I don't have cameras, so I had to make it look really good on this stage. I mean, that was the beginning of me creating event, pizzazz, right?
Yeah.
So I teamed up with a friend of mine who went to the same school, but I just met him after I left school. And his name was Dave Alexander, and we used to call him the professor because he knew all the electronics. He knew all that stuff, right? And so we teamed up as Joey and the professor on these dances, Canadian Bandstand. So I figured, okay, I've been doing some of these dances at the high schools, but now this is another level, and I need to start working and getting stars into the hall and being guests. So I would call up all the record companies, which there aren't that many at the time, and trying to get Canadian recording artists. So that was my first start of doing everything Canadian. It was strictly Canadian. Bandstand 63, it was Canadian. Now this school, I mean, this hall, I had it strategically picked because it's right downtown, and it's within walking distance of 4 high schools. So the dance would start at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and go till 6. So it was a 2-hour dance and midweek. So it was a hump day, get away, come on, dance, and you have time to go home and have supper, the whole 9 yards. Well, that was the whole plan, right? So I remember when we first opened it on January 9th. We had a snowstorm that day. It was a Wednesday. And I thought, oh man, I'm going to lose my shirt here. I know it, right? I mean, people have to walk through this, right? So I set up anyway, not thinking about anything and just making sure that it goes to plan. We created this board because all we had was a table, 2 turntables, and an amp, and 2 big trainer speakers, and that was basically it. So to give it that pizzazz, I thought how we can do this. And it had a curtain that opens and closes, at the side there.
Sure.
And so we thought, okay, I need to excite people when they come in. So they're standing around, and now don't forget it's winter, so it starts getting dark at 4 o'clock. So now I'm starting to get the darkness in here. So the idea was we start off with a theme song. The mirror ball goes up. So now you're getting all that, and the curtains are still closed. And when the curtain opened, there was a board covering the whole front of the 2 desks that we had actually covered in glitter and cutouts that read Joey and the Professor. And the one thing we did, well, my professor did that nobody had done at the time ever, was have lights sync to the amplifier. Right? So that you get the pulsing sound, which is no big deal now. But then it's like, wow, what's that? So he put all these little holes in this thing and put the little Christmas lights in, and we fed one line to the amp and the other line. So we were actually getting mono, no stereo, right? And so when the curtains open, the pulsating lights are going on, and that was new to a lot of people. And of course, they had these huge sparklers at the side. So the sparklers are going, right? And it's like, welcome to Canadian Bandstand. Away we go now. We start doing the dances. Then we have our guests that come in. Getting guests then was like so hard. We started off with Sandy Selsey at that time. She used to be on CBC. CBS. And then Pat Hervey, who was another good Canadian. People had hits. And then I was stuck for one time, so I called my friend Art Snyder at Arc Records at the time. He said, listen, you guys, we've got a new record coming out. If you don't mind helping us out. He says, it's not really pop. He says, it's a little bit of country. It's a little bit of everything. I said, I don't care. Just send him over. I just need somebody to do it. So the guy came over, and he brought his little pictures with him, and he's like very quiet. And he got out there, and he starts signing, and he starts singing his song, which was "Remember Me, I'm the One." And, you have to think back. Now, this is the first time you're hearing this guy, first time you see him.
Yeah, you're in 63, right?
That was Gordon Lightfoot.
So that's a mind blow.
That was Gordon Lightfoot.
So one of the big acts you lure for Canadian Bandstand is a very young Gordon Lightfoot.
Very young Gordon Lightfoot, yeah. And that was like, you wouldn't know it till later, but like, it's a feather in the cap, right?
No, that's as far as Canadian music goes.
And then we got people like the Hollywood Argyles, the Beaumarks, then they all start coming in and doing stuff. And at the same time, people were getting to know me through the CKUY connection, to dances at the dances. And so I was starting to do all the dances. And then one time I got booked into Kipling Collegiate to do a dance. And Frank Teskey from the Toronto Star, I said, look, I'm going to come over. I want to do a story on you. And he goes, okay, fine. He says, but I want to do it at one of your dances. I goes, okay. So he comes over to Kipling Collegiate.
Is that Lakeshore Collegiate now? LCI?
No. Kipling is on.
It's up north.
It's on the Westway.
Westway. Gotcha. Okay.
I don't think it's even called that anymore. I think it's another school altogether.
Right.
Anyway, so I did there, and he came there, and he just loved the whole idea because I had my own console. I designed, by this time I had designed a console that had lights and flashing lights and the whole 9 yards, right? I was the first mobile DJ, basically. I'm like the godfather of mobile DJs because nobody was really out there doing stuff, right?
Yeah.
So and I think that helped in getting people talking about it. And I don't think it was about the music, it was mostly about that. And then, so Teskey calls me in one day after he did the story. He says, we got a lot of response on that story. I goes, oh, that's good. Whatever. He says, come on into the office. Now, here's another story. Yeah. So, these, I go off forever, man. One story leads into another, right?
But I think this is an important part of Toronto music history that if we don't cover it here, Joey, who's going to cover it?
It's true. So going back, so Teskey calls me up and he says, come on down to the office. So now you have to understand, I'm going to the Toronto Star. This is the original building on King Street.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
Now, I mean, at the time, I never really thought much of it. I'm going to this building. I'm going into the offices and, and every week I'd go in but the first time I went in, he just wanted to talk to me. And he says, look, you do all these high school dances, you know your records. He says, you seem to get the records first before even the radio stations get them. I goes, yeah, I do, because I sourced them, before, and I got to know the PR guys and everything else. Because the record companies were, at that point, were starting to give me records to test at the dances before they even get to radio.
Right.
And at that time, the thing that triggered everything was the fact that Paul White was a good friend of mine. He was pitching me Capitol Records all the time. He brought me the first Beatles records. So I was playing Beatles records in the dances a year before they even hit radio. Because I was using the UK copies,
yeah,
right?
Of course, the imports,
and he just knew that, right? Yeah, it's working, and there you go.
So
right?
Wait, were you just naturally able to pick the hits?
There was something about, I sort of, I've always had that knack of picking I guess because I was dealing with a lot of these kids when they first hear it the first time, and I gauged the reaction right away and who likes it, who doesn't. Like if you go to a dance,
so you're reading your crowd. It's not that you're
Exactly.
alone in a room listening on your headphones and you're like, we got a hit here. No, you could see how the teens respond.
Exactly. Right. So if you get like 80-90% on the dance floor already, go, okay, we're doing it, right? So so that's the way that happened. So at that time he says to me, look, he says, why don't you write a column for us on a weekly basis, because we don't really have anything on music here in the Toronto Star. And I says, okay. He says, come up with an idea. And I said, well, how about me predict the hits? Yeah. Right. I get the records. I'll pick what I think is going to happen, and I'll give it a little one-line blurb or something, and you make it, you post it, right?
Right.
So I did that for 2 years while I was doing the dances,
right,
and working night shift at the CIBC.
Right, because that was your job at the time.
And the reason why I picked that job, I hated working night shift. Oh, I hated it, but it kept my Friday nights open and my Saturday nights open.
Right, for the DJing.
Exactly.
Listen, Joey, I love what you're putting down here, man. I would say that Joey had to walk at the Star so that Ben Rayner could run, okay? Just shout out to Ben Rayner.
Hey, Ben.
He's listening, don't worry.
But they do columns. I wasn't doing columns.
No,
it was just a simple listing.
I just want to work Ben into the chat, who do I know who covered music for the Star? Oh, yeah, FOT and Ben Rayner.
There were quite a few people.
So who do you remember who covered music for the Star?
Back then?
Back in the day.
Well, I'm trying to remember that far back. Yeah. Okay. I can't remember.
I remember Peter Howell doing it.
No, that was later, much later.
That's when I'm coming
Most of the people I know were back in the 60s.
I'm just a kid
in the
here,
70s
Joey.
and the 80s, right? Yeah. In the 70s and 80s, you'd get, Peter Goddard and those kind of people.
Peter Goddard, absolutely.
But back then, I was the only guy doing that. But this is what when people ask me why I stick with it, I goes, well, it's perseverance, and something's going to happen. You just feel it, right? But you don't know what is going to happen. It's like going into the music business. I knew I was going to go into the music business. At what level, I had no idea. What territory I was going to cover, I had no idea. I just knew it had something to do with music. So I got on that train and I rode it, into wherever I could get it, and I got off at the stops. So,
Well, I got questions, Joey. So obviously, I do want to talk about you as a performer. I don't even think we referenced the fact that you also are a musical performer. You're not just a promoter or a DJ or a hit picker.
yeah, I mean, I segued into different kinds of,
You're wetting your beak and everything.
yeah, and I wouldn't say a performer because I didn't really like live promoter,
But just
performing.
like a studio musician?
No, I was a singer.
Yeah,
and,
singer.
And I had like 12 records out.
Yeah.
And the irony of all that is, here I am, not a performer, but a singer. And the dream for any singer or any band for that matter was to get on a major label and blah, 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 do all that. Well, it's ironic that I was on Capital EMI Records. I was on A&M Records. I was on London Records. I was on Private Stock Records. And I don't even have a band and I don't tour. So, that alone
You're like
didn't make sense to me.
an enigma wrapped in a riddle here. So, and you would also record under different handles, right?
I would. And that's because I was working in radio a lot or magazines. And so I couldn't really come out and record because it would be conflict of not really conflict of interest.
but I
don't
get
care.
it.
I create my own thing.
Let me play my own music here. Joey C.
So I tried to keep it as low level as possible. At the same time, I want to make sure that whatever I recorded, whatever I picked to record, or whatever I did, it did something on its own merit, not because it was Joey C. You know what I'm saying? It was just, well, that's great. It happened, right? And my very first record, I mean, I've had people, there's stories here, like even before I did my first record, which would blow people's minds. I mean, I'm jumping back and forth here, but I'm trying to keep a sequence here.
No, it's like a Tarantino film. We're going to jump around.
Yeah, okay. So now we're going back to FH, years at FH. So the early years of my FH days was while I was working there. First of all, I got that job.
Well, hey, that's a great point. Let's get you to CKFH. That's right, CKFH. Yeah.
CKFH.
Foster Hewitt is the FH. I know this. Shout out to Fred Patterson from Humble and Fred, who did work for Foster Hewitt.
Yep.
Do you know Freddie P?
Yep.
Okay. Good relationship with Freddie P?
I don't know him that well. I mean, we've known
you cross paths.
Yeah, cross paths.
Okay. So how, you get a tap on the shoulder after DJing a set or something, and they're like, Joey C., you know how to pick the hits. We need you at CKFH.
No, what happened was I was doing the night shift. And same time doing the dances and writing for the Toronto Star. That was the trio right there. Then I got a call one day from Ron Hewitt at CKFH Radio. And at that time, up until then, they were like a jazz station, and they were just going to change format.
And they were 1400, right? Am I wrong?
1430.
But weren't they 1400? Maybe that's before your time.
What's that?
There. Like before they moved to 1430, I do believe that station was 1400, but that's probably before you get there. So it's irrelevant.
I know it was 1430. Yeah, so a big one at 43.
For sure.
And he called me in for a meeting, and he says, how would you like a job here as a music librarian? And I goes, okay. I didn't even ask how much, nothing. I just know night shift, goodbye, I says, yeah, I'll take it, right? Any job, as long as it has to do with music. He says, well, we have a music director, not a music director, a librarian, Susan Taylor, who was also recording ours at the time on Yorkville Records. And I said, sure, I'll work with Susan. So I went there and I started working there. I quit the job. Great. That was a big relief right there. And then, I figured, well, this is the train I was waiting for, right? And unfortunately, Susan and I mean, she was great. I loved her, but at the same time, we had different thoughts of how to run a record programming system, because I've been doing it for myself for like years. And I remember that right now there's that time no computers, no nothing, So it was a job. Like people say, oh, you must just pick record. No, it's not like that. It's like it becomes a really daily grind, but you love it, right? Anyway, so Susan left, and I guess she couldn't put up with me anymore. And then Bill Hewitt, Foster's son,
yes, right.
He was the station manager. He called me and he says, listen, you're going to be music director from here in. I goes, okay, great. I'm music director. And I says, well, here's the deal. I says, I pick the songs, I program the songs. Nobody busts in. Nobody comes in and tells me what to do, what to change it. And he says, deal. So I goes, okay. So now we've got that figured out. So I had to, it was me who was going to pick any record that was played 24 hours a day on that station. Every day except for Sunday mornings. That was the glitch. Because Sunday mornings at CKFH Radio was religious programming. Oh, and also we had some Johnny Lombardi was on there with his Italian stuff, right?
Chin
so
stuff, right?
So basically that Sunday morning we had to jump over to get back into our Sunday afternoon programming. And then when hockey came in, I also had that to deal with. So I had two different things to deal with and keep a program going constantly, right? And as a music director, what I would do is, everybody came through that office. Literally every star you can think of came through that office, through their promo guys, and laid on me all the newest records and pitching me and all that. I didn't realize how many records actually are made each week. I would have a stack like this,
But how do you know what's going to be a hit if you don't play it for the teens? Or are you still...
No, I pretty well had an ear.
Okay, you
now
developed
that, now
the
that I
ear.
knew once I knew, here's the deal. If you brought me in a record, I have my big turntable, my big McCurdy,
Yeah.
and... Okay, Joyce. I have to shut you off right now. I thought I shut it off.
Oh, I thought that was Neil Diamond calling.
Well, that's another story.
I know.
So
I know all the stories, Joey. Come on.
So what happened was, where was I? Got thrown.
Well,
off
you're
that
like,
phone call.
we were talking about how you're now picking the hits
Oh yeah,
that
so
you're
the
going to
ear,
play on.
hearing the ear. Okay, so
the ear.
you give me a record. I used to get so many people saying, "Listen, this is a record. It's going to be a hit. It's going to be." I goes, I'll tell you what. Just leave it with me. If you hear it on the air, I think it's good. Doesn't and if you don't,
Right.
doesn't mean it's bad. It's just that there was only so many spots every week to go into the programming. Like you have to look at it this way: you're getting about maybe 50 records a week. I'm not even counting albums, just 50 singles a week, right?
Right.
Now, we're talking the mid 60s now. Everything is a big classic record now. It used to be just new to me, right? And when they bring it in, it's piling up. So I'm going, okay, see this, out of this, I can only pick 5 or 6. Now I want to play Canadian, so I would look at least getting one on there, right? So whether it was the Guess Who or whoever, I'd get it in there. But the other ones, I mean, you got a lot to choose from, everything from Motown stuff to, Stax to whatever. And so it was tough to get on the air back then. But I did my best to help people out, but I also had to go by the merit of the actual record. And the bottom line is I'd play the beginning of it for about 5 seconds, intro, center, end. That gave me a whole idea of what that song was going to be like.
So it's got to grab you
It's gotta grab
off the
me.
get-go. There's
Yeah.
a tip. Now, the big top 40 stations, I guess, at the time is you got 1050 Chum, right? You got, in
yeah.
Hamilton, you've got 1150. What's that? CKOC.
Yep.
And is it CKUY? Are these the big...
CKUY was not there anymore.
Not there anymore.
When I was at
Okay.
CKFH.
So are you listening to 1150 and 1050?
Nope.
I didn't mean to talk over you there, but I'm curious, like, what artists or songs did Joey C break in this market?
Okay, for each one there's a story.
Okay, well, pat yourself on the back. I got to hear these jams that you're kicking out and breaking in Toronto.
All right. Well, let's see. There was about a dozen of them in a period of 3.
You should be kicking out these Joey C jams here.
Yeah. Well, let me go back to one before I even talk about those. I'll tell you one good story because at the time when I was music director, I was also the house MC at the Embassy Club in the Village. And they would have big artists every week for the whole week. Everybody from Gladys Knight and the Pips to Fats Domino to Jerry Lee Lewis to Eden Sylvia to you name it. They all played that place, right? Well, the one that had his first full week gig was Neil Diamond. So I spent a week with Neil Diamond, every day, literally every day. Because in the evening I would meet up with him and eat upstairs at Steak and Burger because they had a Steak and Burger restaurant up there.
Right.
Harry Rosen's where it is right now, but it used to be a Steak and Burger there.
Right.
And I would have supper with nearly every one of them, that's how I really got the contacts going with all these major stars and their managers and their record producers. That's where it all really started rolling. Anyway, with Neil, we'd have supper, and then he'd come down at lunchtime because he had nothing to do. He didn't know anybody in town. He'd come down to the station, and we would go up the street about half a block to this little Italian place, and we'd just shoot the shit all afternoon. Like, there was no schedule, you know what I mean? So I got to know him well enough that then I started doing some shows with him. I did Hidden Valley as his MC. I did Coliseum. I did a bunch of other ones, right? We just liked hanging out together. And actually, in the evening, sometimes I would drive around and help him get him deals on his leather jackets. He was looking for leather jackets all the time, so I would help him go get deals at the different places. So that was a nice tight knit little friendship thing I had going. The fact that I started recording later on all came from his excitement about me even mentioning it, because I have to tell you this because the stories won't be complete.
Yeah.
Because I would, during our lunch period at one time, he asked me what I'd like doing. And I says, well, I'd like to do this. I'd like to record it sometime. I'd like to have a record out. He goes, can you sing? I goes, yeah, I used to be in a choir, and I've done the odd thing.
Well, the St. Michael's Boys Choir is world renowned.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I know that. I'm a Michael Power grad.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember the St. Michael's Boys Choir. Come on. Our mortal enemies.
And he says to me, he goes, well, what's your real name? I mean, what name would you use? I goes, Joey C. And I goes, what's your real name? I goes, Camilleri. He goes, I'd use that. And I go, nah, I don't think so, right? So he started talking about that, and he says, what song, did you have a song in mind? Mm-hmm. And I says, actually, yeah. I goes, it's one of yours. And he goes, oh, okay. He goes, what song? I says, it's a song you recorded called You'll Forget, which I believe was the other side of Girl, You'll Be a Woman Soon, or
Girl.
It was a B-side. He goes, yeah, he says, we were going to release that as a single, but we made a couple of mistakes in there that I wasn't happy with, so we just put it out as a B-side. He says, you know what? If I'm in the area, when you're ready to go recording it, I'll help you out. I'll help you produce it. I go, okay, yeah. Whatever.
Okay, yeah, sure.
That's as far as that went. You know what I mean? Because he broke out like after one more record. He was like done. Quit Sweet Caroline. All those came out.
No time for lunch with Joey
He
C.
broke out when he had Brother Love's Traveling Salvation Show. That's when he broke out, and you couldn't even get near him after that.
Right.
So yeah, and then shortly after that, I was in New York, and I went, which is going to lead to another act, which goes to the Gold Record Act. Mm-hmm. I was in New York with Ed Preston from RCA Victor. Ed says to me, he says, come on, listen, I want you to come down and listen to this new group that's Dunhill Records has just signed up, and they want you to figure out, they want to know if you like the act and if you can help, play the record or whatever. I goes, okay, I'll take, go down, all expenses paid. Ed pays for it and all that, and we go down. That was what I call my magical night. That one night, is in memory as one of the best nights ever. Like, so much happened, and it was, I'm talking about starting at around 10 o'clock at night till 7 in the morning. That one, lots of stuff happened there. Going back to Neil Diamond, I was in a restaurant. We were so hungry after the whole thing at Steve Paul's Scene. And we're at this diner in New York, and it's one of those bright light diners, like delicatessen type. And it's 3 a.m, and you can hardly see outside because of the glare. And we're sitting there. There's about 4 of us sitting there, and I hear bang, 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 whoa! And all I could think of was in mafia shootings, whatever. I didn't know New York that well. I just what I know from what I know. And his bang, bang, bang goes, he's waving for you to come out and see him. I goes, who is it? I goes, I can't make it out. He looks like he's carrying a guitar case. He goes, okay. So Ed says, I'll come with you to the door. Go to the door. It's Neil Diamond. And I said, what the hell? He goes, I guess, how would you recognize me? He says, I'd recognize anywhere. He goes, what are you doing here? I goes, I told him I was a Steve Paul. Oh, yeah. He says, that's cool. I says, what are you doing? He says, he just come back from the recording studio. They just finished doing another recording, and he says, here, you might give me your opinion on it. I'll give you. He gave me a little demo, right? It was Brooklyn Roads. He just finished recording Brooklyn Roads, and anyway, that's an amazing thing that happened that in my memory, right? So anyway, that's it. So now let's go back to the Gold Record thing. So now I'm at Steve Paul's Scene. I don't know if you know who Steve Paul was. He was the one that started Blue Sky Records, which he had, Edgar Winter and Rick Derringer and all those guys, right?
Right.
Down at Hartman. And all I knew about this club was what I heard through the grapevine, that this is like the place where everybody hangs out, blah, 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 blah. And I go, it's great, beautiful. And it's in the village. And so I go in, and I'm at the bar because the band isn't on yet. And I have no idea who this band is. It's a brand new band. And I'm at the bar, and I'm sitting with this guy who's like getting pissed, drinking. And we say, yeah, you're from where? I'm from Canada. Oh, you're from Canada. I go, oh, yeah. He says, I bet you're not even playing my record. I goes, nobody's playing my record. I goes, I don't know who you are, and I don't know what record you're talking about. He goes, well, what's the record it's called? He says, it's Early Morning Raid, unless you're Tim Rose. No, we're not playing. He goes, I'm Tim Rose. And I goes, whoa, okay. Here's a good start, right? Even though he was half pissed, right? So while I'm sitting there, Rick Derringer walks by. Joey, what the hell? And
Jeez.
Don't forget, Rick Derringer was the McCoys.
Right.
His cousins and brothers, like the Zeringer brothers, and Rick Derringer was Zeringer, right?
Right.
And he goes, "What are you doing here?" I goes, "Oh, I'm here to see this new band." Right? He goes, "Oh shit! You got to hang in, man. You got to come and see us. We got this new album called Human Ball coming out." And I go, "Yeah, okay. Well, right now I got to listen to this band." And I goes, "Oh, okay." Because he says, "Well, here's my number. Call me." So Rick says, "Give me a call before you leave New York." And I goes, "Okay, fine." So now here comes somebody else I know, and it's Jerry Edmonton, and then Goldie McJohn. And I goes, "What the hell are you guys?" I goes, "I can't believe I had to come to New York to even catch up with you guys, because now you have to understand something. These people, Goldie McJohn and all these guys, used to be the Sparrow in Toronto. Used to be Jack London the Sparrow, then they were the Sparrow. Well, I used to do guest singing with them throughout the whole village area, constantly at the Chez Monique, at Purple Onion, all these places, right? So they were like really good friends of mine. We really knew each other well. The last time I saw them was I did their going away party at the Chez Monique in Yorkville before they went to play Arthur's in New York City. And then they got signed to Columbia in New York City as the Sparrow, right? And they put out an album, didn't really do that great. And then they disappeared. I go, so what happened to them? I just thought, well, maybe they broke up or something, right? Well, here I'm seeing this new band called Steppenwolf.
There you go. I was waiting for it. Steppenwolf.
Steppenwolf. Remember, at the time, though, what's Steppenwolf? Another band, another name, right? You don't know, right?
Right.
So they said, Joey, why don't you let us know what you think of what records what songs do you think we should release or whatever. I said, listen, I was flown down here by Dunhill Records to be introduced to you. Now I'm introducing you to Dunhill Records because they haven't even met them.
Right.
And I'm going, this whole thing was so weird, right? And so I listened to it. I thought, oh man, these guys have really changed, and it's unbelievable what they've come up with, right? And so after the gig, and I says, who was it that came up to me? Nick. And he goes, well, so what'd you think? He goes, I go, what can I say? And John Kay thought, well, you got an opinion? I goes, well, it's all positive. He goes, what song do you think would make it? I goes, Born to Be Wild.
There you go.
And then he says, what would be the other one? I goes, Magic Carpet Ride.
Yep. 2 for 2, Joey C.
And I thought, okay. And I goes, I just left it at that, right?
Yeah.
So the next week I got the album in, and the single, it was Born to Be Wild. And I goes, okay, I like the record because I like the record. I got it. Now, how am I going to do this and play the record? And I know I don't know basically I don't know this band. I've got to play this record. So I did. And I kept playing it, and I was waiting for Chum to pick up on it, and anybody else across the country, even in the States, nobody.
Wow.
And here at the time, you have to understand something. The only communication we had between radio stations in North America was through the quarterback, the Ted Randall quarterback. Every Monday we got these tip sheets, which were like 10 pages, 20 pages of, mailed to us. And it breaks down all the different radio stations and music directors and who they're playing, who they're not playing. And mine kept coming up as Born to Be Wild, Steppenwolf, and nobody was following me. And then slowly they started to pick up on me. They goes, well, Joey's playing it. Like, well, I kept thinking, why isn't Chum playing this thing? Chum only goes by sales. There ain't no sales, so they don't do that.
I was wondering if maybe it's a little hard.
What's that?
Like a little hard. Like Born to Be Wild, kind of a hard song.
It was in line.
Okay.
It was in line. But the thing is, that was the difference between FH and Chum.
Right.
Is that they followed the charts and they followed things, and I didn't. I broke records. I played what I wanted to play.
You're on the bleeding
what
edge.
I thought was what it should what should be happening here. So anyway, I played it and I kept playing it. By the time I had it number one for me, it was just starting to pick up into all over the States. Right now, the help I had was with Rosalie Tremblay and Frank Gould in Montreal and Kevin in Hamilton. We were like the quartet. So if all four of us went on something, they would all go and boom, 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 it would just pick up. Rosalie would take it over because it would go into the States, right? So then boom, boom, it would just pick up. So we would always sort of bounce off each other. What do you think? And I goes, yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Okay, we did it. So that's how most records happened, back in Canada. So
this makes you a very powerful figure in Canadian music. You know this.
Well, I don't look at it that way, but
well, you might as well look at it that way. Like this is a chance to look back and realize, okay, your ear picks up that this song is good, regardless of sales. Okay, Born to Be Wild, for example, you're going to play the hell out of this great song. Doesn't matter how it's selling, and then eventually you mentioned Rosalie Tremblay, and you mentioned is it Kevin Grant?
Nevin Grant.
Yeah, Nevin Grant
and
from
Frank Gould,
CKOC, right? Yeah, and these are, once that consortium buys into a song, you're off to the races.
Yeah.
But that spark, though, was you.
Yeah, but it was Central Canada, too. Like Western Canada was Robinson and a few other people,
Right.
And they were all great people, they were great.
Right.
And we were all good friends, all of us, I was even friends with the guys at Chum, except I wouldn't show my cards, to the guys at Chum. Dave, I think, was at Chum after that. And there were people that were friends of mine. Duff Roman. We're all friends now. Back then, we made them work. We made them work anyway. So that's how the Steppenwolf one happened. And what happened was one day, Ed Preston came and he says, "Listen, we just came back from the RCA convention in Los Angeles, and RCA Canada got a gold record for breaking Born to Be Wild." And I goes, "Well, great." And he goes, "No," he says. We told them right there on stage that this belongs to me." And I go, "Well, why would he say that?" And he goes, "Because you're the one, without you wouldn't have." And I says, "Without you, I wouldn't have met them down there and did the thing. So yeah, you deserve it." I goes, "All right." So then they created a gold record and they came over and presented me with a gold record,
Nice.
the whole 9 yards. Anyway,
Nice.
so that's that.
And you
one.
still have that gold record.
Oh yeah, I still have it.
Beautiful.
And so that was one of the first big one, obviously. Then the second one wasn't a gold record, and I still don't think that even. I still don't even believe that either Burton Cummings or Randy even know the story, because I hear different stories about Rosalie Tremblay did it. No, that's not the way it happened. When I know the story, I don't go out telling that story, right? Unless I read
Until right now.
Well, I'm writing my book, so I would put everything into there, right?
Right.
But the story there was Jack Richardson was a good friend of mine who produced their stuff, and the studio was up at Nimbus 9. Archie McDonald was their promo guy, and he would come in with the odd recording coming through and from different artists and telling me what's going on, and I'd always talk to Jack. And he came in one day to the station, and he says, "Listen, I got this we're just finishing up this album with the Guess Who." And I says, "Yeah," and I think it was Wheatfield Soul. And he says, Jack wants you to tell him what you think the record should be to be released. And I says, "Okay, hold on a second. Number one, I can't do it here. So I guess we have to do this after hours. I'm not going to sit here and do this." And he says, "Okay, I'll come over to your apartment." So he brought the reel, and he brought it over to my apartment in Toronto. And I was smiling Archie. He says, "Okay," he says, "Here, let's sit down here, relax, have a beer, whatever. Let's go. Let me listen to this whole thing." Because I always liked Burton Cummings' voice. I thought he has one of the best voices ever out of Canada. He does. He
Absolutely.
does. And he's very creative. He's very, very good. And so I was excited to actually hear what this new album was like. And he says, "Well, what should I tell Jack?" And I says, "Well, these eyes, undone, and laughing.
Yeah.
Those are the three." And that's how they came out.
Yeah, These Eyes is the big breakthrough.
Yeah. And I says, that they're the songs. And he goes, okay, I'm going to tell Jack. And I didn't talk to Jack. I was just going to find I got These Eyes on my table. I goes, okay, this is great. Wonderful. I never thought big of him. I was giving advice and it came out and whatever, right? So that would have been the next big one, which I got credit for, but like no gold record or anything. Just, like I said, I don't even think those two even know the whole story, right?
Oh, and now Robert Lawson knows the story, who's listening right now.
Hey, Robert, now you know. So
Now you know.
Anyway, so that happened. So the other one that I nearly lost my job on.
Let's hear that story.
Oh yeah. So
Wait, yeah, I want that story, and then I want to give you a couple of gifts because you gave me a gift. But let's hear that story.
okay, so this one here, Gary Pallant was the program director. This is where we came to heads, man, like big time, and it was towards the end of my leaving. And he says I didn't like what he was doing. He's an American coming in, and his office was next to mine, so I can hear him listening to demo tapes from different jocks, and I'm going, these are all American jocks he's listening to, man. I'm going, what the hell? And then he'd be besting the balls of all the other jocks on the air now, right? I remember when John Donaby got fired. I know when Don Daynard had the ultimatum of either do this or do that or leave. I remember I says he was breaking up the family. He was breaking up the family.
Those are two legends.
And it was pissing me off. Like, and I thought, okay, you know what? I do not like what you're doing, and I know what you're doing. You're just going to change over the whole thing and Americanize this whole station, right? That's what you're trying to do here, and you're firing the guys who had the highest ratings. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, And anyway, so we never got head to head. So, anyway, as a music director, I get the records, I play them. It's none of his business, And he thought he had power over me, and I goes, I don't give a shit. No, I have a standing agreement with Bill, so
right.
You can go. And anyway, so I don't know, somebody came in and brought me a copy of Je T'aime, which was the French version, which was banned nearly all over Europe. Right. And that's all I kept hearing about the song was it's banned, it's banned, it's banned. It was never released in North America. And I says, let me hear this record. And he goes, yeah, listen, here it is. And so I listened to it and I went, oh, I got to play this. And I'm listening to like Jane Birkin and Serge, right?
Yeah,
and I
she
go,
just passed away.
And I listen. I goes, why aren't they playing this? Like, what's the problem with this? Okay, it's suggestive. That's it. It's suggestive, right? And I go, but what are the lyrics? But I'm not French. So what I did was I said, I called my guys at the French radio station, CBC Radio French. I said, translate this thing for me. I said, have you guys heard Je T'aime? He goes, well, we heard about it. I goes, I'm sending you over the copy of this. I'm just taping it. I'm not giving you the copy, but I'm going to tape it, sending it over to you. Tell me what the lyrics are. So they come back to me and they goes, well, it's nothing really. It's I love you, and it's you lose it in translation, And I goes, so you're telling me there's nothing really bad said in here, like not swearing or nothing?
Nothing explicit.
No, it's all just suggestive. And I went, okay, thank you. So I said, I'm playing it. So I thought, okay, I'm waiting for the backlash here. So
right.
So I went and told Bill. I says, listen, before I play, I'm telling you right now that I'm playing this record, and I'm telling you right now that it's banned all over the place, and I'll play it until we get notice that we shouldn't be playing it. And he says, you're the music director. You do what you have to do. So the program director heard I was going to do that. And he says, listen, I don't think you should be playing it. I goes, I don't care what you think. I'm playing it. He goes, are you willing to put your job on the line for this? And I goes, yeah. And he goes, thanks for the alternative, but yeah, I'm going to do that. And just in spite now, I'm going, yeah, I'm playing this damn record. And he goes, okay, well, if we get trouble, you're it. I goes, fine, bye, So I programmed it actually for Tom Fulton's show.
Tom Fulton.
So because I'd be going home, I'd be in the car at 6:00 when he's out on the air. So I says, Tom, look it. You're going to be playing this record and only play that once. You're programming it because I want to hear it. Okay, no problem. So he said, okay. He hasn't even heard it. So I got everybody off guard. Nobody knew I was going to play this record. At 6:00, I'm listening to it and I'm going, it sounds really good because you're listening to a radio station on AM, and you got to get the feel, right? And I said, sounds just as good on radio. So I listened to it and it was a pause and he played it again. I went, oh, what's happening here? So when I got back to my apartment, I'm trying to get to through to him, and he's not picking up. And I go, something happened? What? Why did the record go twice? And the regular program went through. Anyway, he next morning I come in. I'm always late, right? I'm always late. I'm just not one of those morning guys, right?
Right.
Barry Nesbitt, the manager, would always come in and look at us. So he'd go, and I do the same thing when I'm leaving at night at 6 o'clock. I'm going, he says to me, well, when I came in, you have to understand, CKFH, I have to tell you this. CKFH, if you want to get an idea what the station was like, it was like walking onto the set of WKRP.
I thought you might go there.
I swear that station was modeled over of CKFH. We had the same type of blonde sitting in the front. We had the same kind of
Jennifer
salesman.
Marlowe.
We had the same kind of
Herb
salesman,
Tarlick.
Herb Tarlick. We had the whole gang, man.
Did you have a Les Nessman? That's what I want to know.
We had that too. Like we had all these characters, right? I go, I every time I watch WKRP, I can picture that, right? Anyway, so.
And you're Andy Travis.
I guess I was, yeah. I never
Very
thought
Sandy.
about it. So he tells me, anyway, we're past that. So now the next morning I come in and everybody's got this gloom face on, and then messages I have. It's only like 9:30 or something, and I've got like a stack of messages like this,
Right.
And I'm going, what the hell is this? And they go, okay. So I go back to my office. I had the back room in the office, and before I could even go through the messages, Barry Nesbitt walks in, the manager, and he goes, and he says, have you listened to any of your calls? I go, I just got in. I go, what's going on? He goes, well, he says, I got some calls already from, the Mother's Liberal this or the church this, or because don't forget, we were a
Family
church station.
values,
We were a
all
church
that.
station on Sundays.
Right.
So I never even thought about that. I didn't even think about that. And I thought, oh, no.
And this is Toronto the Good.
Yeah, and then I thought, oh no, we got clash here. I'm getting clash. So I wouldn't think those people listening to the station otherwise, right? Anyway, so there's that, and he goes, yeah. So I goes, I says, he says, do you think we're in trouble? And I goes, I don't think so. I says, do you see the CRTC coming in here or the Mountie Police coming in here? And I said, let me tell you something. I don't think they will. And he goes, so I said, you talk to these people, that called in? And he goes, yeah. I says, what'd you tell them? He says, well, I told them to go listen to another radio station. And I goes, what? And he goes, did you read all your messages? And I goes, no. So I goes, it was nearly all record stores looking for the record number.
Wow.
And it's only 9:30.
Wow.
And I'm going, what is this? And he goes, they all want to stock that record. And I went, what?
I love this twist, but did Tom play it twice?
He played it twice because he was getting calls. And he says, I got to play it. So that's why he played it twice.
Oh my goodness gracious.
So anyway, so I had it like number one within like 2 weeks.
Okay.
And I was waiting. Okay, when's the CRTC going to, when's the,
Right.
the morale squad coming in, and nothing. And then the program director comes in and he goes, it's going to be great if this thing, because they hit worldwide. I goes, what are you talking about? He goes, well, it'd be great if we got a gold record for this. I goes, who's we? And he goes, well, you already got gold record. I goes, get lost. Go, get lost, Like he wanted to get the credit for
Right.
something I put my job on the line
and something he
for.
told you not to do.
Not to do.
Yeah.
So now that creates
weasel.
another situation. So here we go.
Yeah.
This is a bit of a story. So
Okay.
you like stories, you're going to get it.
And then I'm giving you gifts.
So here we are. Now I'm going to dispel the fact that Chum only goes charts by record sales. London Records rush released that record out, put it out.
Mm-hmm.
They couldn't even keep it in stock. It was the number one selling record everywhere in the area. And no number one nothing on Chum. Chum was not playing at all. They wouldn't even touch it, right? And it was already number one on my charts, right? So I thought, okay, so now it's being reported all over North America that I'm playing this record. So other stations in the States tried to do it, and they got hit by the FCC. So they all got scared and they didn't play it.
Right.
Right? We were the only ones that were able to play.
Well, remember
it.
they took Louie off the air because they thought it was suggestive.
Yeah. It was a made up word. That's all it was.
Yeah, right.
And so I said, okay. So Anyway, we made it a hit. It was big. It was number one. We played it, ran its course in the whole 9 yards. But in the meantime, I get a call from my friend Don Gooch at Motown Records. Now, Don Gooch used to be our engineer at CKFH Radio.
Okay.
He is now the engineer at the studios at Motown. Right? So he says to me, Joey, what's this record that you guys are playing? I goes, well, you should them. He goes, yeah. He says, man, I wish we could do something like that here. I goes, why? Well, I don't know. What do you want to do? He goes, what about if we did an instrumental of that record? Would that work? And I goes, well, if you did the breathing, maybe it might work and whatever. And he goes, no, just because people know the tune, right? They know the tune. And I goes, all right, then put out an instrumental version of it. He goes, because he says, now I'm in charge of the Rare Earth label and we're looking for something new, right? And I thought, well, I says, why don't you put it out and give it a different name, and I think he called it Sounds Nice, I think it was called. And by Love on, no, it was called Sounds Nice. But anyway, they put it out, right? And it was number one like in a week, right across the board. It was a first record right out of the hit, boom, And
you're so young still, and you're the youngest hit maker we have in this country. Fair to say that. And this is one of a dozen or so big songs that you broke.
Well, if you want, yeah. I mean, the term was breaking it. Yeah, I guess. I can't take away from the other people like Rosalie and all, and Nevin and all those guys because they were all supportive. They did their share of breaking records too. We all did our bit, right? But these had sort of backup stories for these particular ones, right? But I went on the limb for a lot of different records, including Procol Harum, Whiter Shade of Pale, Boogaloo Down Broadway. But my last one would have been David Bowie, Space Oddity, which nobody even listened to for 2 years after that. And boom. You go back and you go, yeah, I remember this record when it first came out, and nobody was touching it,
Okay, Joey, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give you some gifts, and then I'm going to blow your mind by playing a song, and you're going to tell us what we're listening to. And then we're going to do some just more rapid, because I don't have unlimited time. Of course, I'm making time for some of these great stories. But we got some quick hits to do, post CKFH, because this is the 60s. We're still in the 60s here. We don't have, we can't go at that same pace through your whole entire interesting career, as you can imagine. We're still in the 60s, Joey. It's been an hour. Okay, here.
On my book, I'm still in the 60s.
Well, listen, when is this book going to be done?
Well, I'm doing it in 5 chapters. I'm 5 books. The 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and then 2000s.
Okay, what is this, Game of Thrones? What are you doing here?
No, it's because every decade I reinvented myself, and I did different things, right? Based on the previous things. So then they all have their own stories, and I can fill up a whole book, no problem.
Well, we're gonna do the shorter version in this chat, and then you'll come when this book, when I can read these books, you're coming back.
That might be quite a while from now.
Well, I can wait. I got nothing but patience. But you came all this way, and I know you're proud Maltese man, but I've got some Italian food for you. Is that okay? I got a lasagna in the freezer.
No problem. I just brought you some Italian wine.
Yeah, so it's here. Okay. So thank you.
Oh, that's another thing you should look at. Take a look at
okay, well, here. Let me see. I'm okay, by the C, but C is spelled C-E-E, as in Joey C. This is your private stock collection. You are what I would call a raconteur, a Renaissance man. You wet your beak and everything.
Stick your hand in there.
Is there more? Okay, there is more here. Okay, so let me put that here from your private collection. Oh! This man knows. This is CC Bonds, which is also spelled C-E-E-C-E-E. You are Joey C. This is chocolate.
Yep.
Dude, you know the way to my heart, man. So let me return the face. So this is amazing.
That's great. No, thank you.
All right, okay. And then Maple Music Cafe. This is an online radio station.
Those are all my business cards.
Oh, Canada on Demand.
Everything I'm doing is on that card.
TorontoOnDemand.com. People should go there. Your Southern Ontario entertainment planner. No rest for the wicked, eh, Joey? No chance of slowing down here.
I didn't know it was that wicked.
So this chocolate I'm now seeing here, TorontoChocolateFestival.com.
Which I've been producing for 20 years.
You promote that event. You've got
Produce it for 20 years.
Produce it for 20 years. My apologies. MapleMusicCafe.com, which is that online radio station we discussed. Coast to Coast Travel Discoveries. That's CanadaOnDemand.com. And we mentioned Sorry. Well, it actually says .com
Okay,
over
that's
here.
fine. Okay.
Joey, we got to fix this, buddy.
We'll fix
Okay,
it.
so .ca. We'll fix it in post. But listen, so thank you, but I want to give you a lasagna from Palma Pasta. That's an empty box, but it's in my freezer right
Okay,
now,
then
Joey.
we'll-
Don't worry, you're going to get
I'll have something to eat tonight.
no smoke and mirrors here. Thank you to palmapasta.com. They're in Mississauga and Oakville. And I actually saw your friend Dave Charles at our most recent gathering at Palma's Kitchen, which was late November. It's just seeing him and his wife. His wife
was
is
there.
Italian. Well, you know what?
I was there, but I couldn't get to you because it was so packed and you had so many people on the stage.
You were there. You know, Joey, Dave told me you were coming, and I actually thought, until this moment, I just thought you couldn't make it. You were there.
I was there. I came by.
You should have kicked, you know,
It
like
was
when
too
George
hard.
Costanza
it
had
was,
to...
it was really hard to do.
It was a
there
busy
was a
day,
lot
right?
of people. Yeah.
It was crazy.
And plus, I was a little problem with my tinnitus, so it was starting to. It was like getting really. Yeah.
Well, did you get a free meal from Palma Pasta?
No, I just got there, wait to see you on check out and talk to Dave, and that was it basically.
Okay, well, thank you for being there. It was great to see Dave there. I got him on the mic, and it's good that we can finally do this. So, in addition to the Palma Pasta lasagna, I have fresh craft beer for you from Great Lakes Brewery. So you give me your wine. This is from my private stock, okay? Fresh craft beer brewed right here in Southern Etobicoke. Much love to Great Lakes Brewery. Also, quick piece of advice. I don't know, do you still DJ?
No. not
No,
really.
you've retired from the DJ. No more, ones and twos. But if you have any old cables, old electronics, old devices, don't throw them in the garbage. Go to recyclemyelectronics.ca, stick your postal code in there, and then find out where you can drop it all off to be properly recycled, Joey C. And I wanted to give some love to Nick Iones. He's got a couple of great podcasts you should listen to. I was going to say Life's Undertaking. That's actually the Ridley Funeral Home podcast. The Nick Iones podcast. But speaking of Ridley Funeral Home, this measuring tape is for you, Joey C., courtesy of Ridley Funeral Home.
I hate to ask what we'll be measuring.
What would you like to measure with that? Joey, what are you doing there? What are you doing here? Please. Okay. But Nick Iones has a great podcast called Building Toronto Skyline. He's with Fusion Corp. He has another podcast called Building Success, and he's visiting Friday to record some new materials. So thank you to all the partners of Toronto Mike. And of course, there is an opening because we had a seasonal sponsor. We're now in January. So if you're interested in joining the family here, I'm Mike at torontomike.com. Let's make some magic happen. I want to play a song. Well, okay, so why do you leave CKFH?
Because I had an ultimatum. I just couldn't get along with the program director, and what happened was I happened to just have an appendix attack just before Christmas, and I was laid up for like a week or two. And I went into the station just because, my concern, I want to make sure everything was in good shape, and
Right.
everything was running smooth. I walked in and the place was a mess. It was turned upside down, that they just, just went crazy with this thing. And Palant walks in and he goes, listen, I need you to put together the top 100 of 69 or 68, whatever it was, 68, I think. And I go, are you crazy? I go, no, I'm not doing that. And he goes, it's your job. I go, I'm not even supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be home. I'm not taking orders from you. And he goes, well, you got to do, that's your job. And I go, oh no, don't tell me he's going to pull this off now. Right. So I waited, and so of course the manager calls me in, and he's sitting there and he goes, okay, listen, you guys can't seem to, and I told him, I basically ripped into him, and he says, you two can't get along. Something's got to happen here. I says, what do you want to do? You want to fire me? And he looks at me like, Barry didn't want any of that stuff. Right. And the guy goes, well, why don't you just quit? And I says, no. I says, why don't you fire me? And he goes, you want to be fired? You're fired. I goes, good, thank you. First of all, it was at the end when all the jocks were pretty well gone. It wasn't fun money anymore, you know?
Right.
And I was looking for something new anyway to go to. I had no idea where I was going to go to,
Right.
which worked out as a good thing, actually.
Right.
So he says to me, I says, can I clear my desk out now? And he goes, no, you got a week to do it. I goes, no, I want to do it now. So what happened was I went back there. I got these big boxes, and there's a whole library of all the oldies on there. And I just start going, and he goes, what are you doing? What are you doing? He goes, I said, this is my library. I'm clearing up my
Your
desk.
personal collection.
And he goes, you can't do this. I go, yeah, that's all his. He goes, he came in with all that. We had the best oldies collection of all.
Wow.
And that's it. So I
You still have that vinyl?
I wanted to get him fire me so I could collect Pogie for the next 3 months, right? And I did. The vinyl I have, I just donated 20,000 albums to Metalwork Studios. It's in their school.
Okay, shout out to Gilmore, FOTM Gilmore. Okay.
He's got the Joey C vinyl vault at the Metalwork Studios.
Small world we live in here.
Yep.
My goodness. Okay, so can you please, we're going to do some hot spots here, and then I'm waiting for the books, okay? And then you're coming back. But tell me about CBC Music. Is it Action Set?
Okay, so
just give me a little taste of
when
this.
I left FH, I was laying low. I thought, okay, I don't know what I'm going to do next or whatever, right? Within 2 days of after I got fired, when I should have, the same thing as being quit, but
Right.
you don't get money if you're fired, if you quit, sorry. So like 2 days later, I get this call from CBC Radio, and they goes, you just leave FH? And I went, well, I said, boy, word sure gets out fast. He goes, oh yeah, everybody knows. I goes, holy, I didn't even tell anybody, you know? He says, no, we know. He says, why don't you come in and talk to us? I goes, for about what? He goes, just come on in. I goes, okay. So I went to the CBC studios in Jarvis and sat there with John Kastner. And John Kastner was doing the Action Set weekend,
Right.
which is syndicated like in over 90 stations across the country. And he says, we want you to come up with a show for yourself on the station. And I goes, okay, now let's get one thing straight here. Number one, up until now, because, when I was at FH, I used to get a lot of requests to do dances, right? Joey C. But I was never a DJ on CKFH.
Right.
But everybody thought I was. Right. But it was number of times I was mentioned. It just, as a matter of fact, a lot of the jocks at one time boycotted me. And they went, you know what, Joey's getting all the bookings because we're not getting as much bookings and because he's booking himself. I goes, no. I goes, I'm not doing that. And I had a track record already.
Right.
So what they said was, I said, you know what, you guys do the bookings. So they did that for about a month, and they says, Joey better do it again because they keep asking for him. So I goes, okay, great. So I guess I got this thing at CBC, and CBC says, well, you have your own show. And I went, okay. I go, what do? He goes, come up with an idea. And I said, okay. So I says, I believe in the Canadian music. They don't have much of a chance to do a lot of stuff. They don't have many openings unless you're in the States. And I says, I want to start, I'll do a 1 hour show called Music Canada on Joey C Presents Music Canada. And they liked the idea. I says, I only interview Canadian artists. I play Canadian music and all the new stuff. This is not an oldie show. It's just a mixture of everything.
Right.
And they went for it. They said, yeah, great. So I was on there for over 2 years, every Saturday.
And this is the first time you're actually, hosting you're broadcasting. This is your voice.
Yeah. So
on the radio.
Yeah. And that came out of 2 days after FH, which I had no idea what I was going to do next. So, and that started Music Canada. And then I published a chart that distributed in 90 stations and blah, blah, blah. I just went on into publishing.
Well, here, so let's again. Well, we're going to get you back for a deeper dive into some of this, 70s and beyond. And I'm going to blow your mind with a song in a moment here. But you mentioned Q107 off the top, and we talked about Dave Charles. So you produced High School Confidential.
Right.
But not the song.
No, not the song.
You weren't with Carol Pope and Kevin Staples in this deal, because that's a line they had to edit for radio. Cream my jeans. Carol Pope. You got to clean that up for Chum FM. Okay. All right, but then so that's your role in at Q107, and just a couple of quick hits here. But you co-hosted CBC TV's Music Hop.
Yeah, I was a guest every once in a while with there, Jay Jackson and a bunch of others, and don't forget Alex Trebek was the main.
Was it Alex Trebek and then Dave Marsden?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it's funny because we talked about Mickey earlier.
Yeah.
And
Alex was first. Yeah.
Okay, I feel like there's been a lot of Marsden on the mind lately because there's a CFNY doc debuting tomorrow on TVO.
Oh,
and,
great.
Marsden's all over this thing. So it's
Dave's
like a love letter to
Dave's
David
a great
Marsden.
Friend. Dave's a real good friend of mine. He actually, he had his office right down from my office at Carlton Street. We were subtenant.
Amazing. But again, small world, but it's all Marsden all the time over here. Okay. And you would pop on a bunch of stations, right? Doing like radio reports. I don't know, CKFM, which is 99.9, became Mix 99.9 at some point.
I came up with a concept because I reached my lowest after a folded Record Week. I left Record Week. About 4 months later, I was working on my mom's basement again, where my studio was and everything.
Right.
And when I went to I went for a trip to Washington to do a little bit of business, and the place burnt down while I was gone. So I lost everything. Literally everything inside that house went.
Oh my goodness.
So I lost about $500,000 worth of records, equipment, you just name it, everything.
Did you have insurance?
So, no, it was back then. You're not supposed to work out of your house, So we had insurance that my mom was covered and the house was covered, but for me, I'm dead. Nothing.
Jeez.
Anyway, it's a long story, but the thing is,
It's awful.
so I went up for a dry spell for about 4 years, like nothing, no work, nothing. I didn't even have a car. So it was my lowest point. So you know me, I just have to bounce back and think ahead, and away we go, come up with something else.
You're a visionary.
But I always just said everything is for a reason when it happens, and I always thought there's got to be a reason for this. Like, I don't know why, I have no idea, but about 3 years later, I realized what the reason was. And that was, it took me out of the music industry into the entertainment industry. Two distinct things, right?
Right.
Entertainment includes music, but music doesn't include entertainment.
Russian dolls.
So I started working with nightclubs. I got some breaks where I would start working with some nightclubs as their PR people, as my PR guys, as a PR person. And at one time I had like 8 clubs going at the same time, and I was making a lot of money there. And I thought, holy crap, this is great. And then one day I just had this idea, because I brought the idea of publishing and broadcasting and clubs all together under one pot. And I went, what we don't have is like these clubs are advertising on these dance stations or, dance music stations. But you never know what happens on the weekend. Like, okay, on Friday, on Saturday, blah, blah, blah. Monday comes, it's done. Nobody knows what's going on, right? I goes, no, I'm going to change that. So I really started the first remote reports, basically on all genres, by starting the Hotspots network and the Hotspots reports. And what I did was I basically had a team of 4 reporters, 2 supervisors, 2 limousines, and every Friday and Saturday night on CKFM, the mix at the time. Well, it wasn't the mix yet. It was CKFM 999.
Right.
And it was where they put dance music on Friday and Saturday nights. So starting at 7 o'clock to 1 o'clock, we would be going from one club to another every half hour, reporting live and giving the listener a 1-minute recap of what's happening at this club that we're live at, what's happening at this club in the West End and the West Club in the East End. We're giving like traffic reports. How long is the lineup? What's their feature tonight? Who's the guest tonight? What should you look out for? Basically, it was an actual report. It was a traffic report for nightclubs. And after I did it with CKFM, who believed in my concept, and it kicked off in September 85, and it just took off. And the bottom line is that I was producing that segment, right?
Right.
And it had nothing to do with the station, because the deal was, you give me 2 minutes an hour to sell. I will provide you with that service, which will be we're promoting you.
Right.
And they liked that idea. So I goes, okay. So I sold I was selling like 28 clubs every quarter, and they were sold out every time. So after the first time I went, okay, this is working. So I took that concept and I took it to LA.
Woo.
And we were on Power 106 Los Angeles, the #1 radio station, just starting up. And then we went from there to Hot 103 New York City. And then we went to CKMF Montreal.
Well, it's Hot 97, right?
It's 97, yeah.
Okay.
And then they were both Emma's broadcasting stations. And then we took it to Montreal, and CKMF Montreal, and to Magic 102 Buffalo. It's like I had 5 cities, 5 stations going every weekend, total of 30 reporters, 10 limousines running around, and covering a total of about 150, 200 clubs every weekend.
Okay, Joey, there's a lot here.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot in the
Well,
Joey
you asked
C.
about it.
No, I asked here. So here, for time purposes, because I know how I want to close here.
Yeah.
I'm going to read something from your bio. Okay, I'm just going to read this. Okay, we're covering a lot of ground in one sentence here. It might be a run-on sentence. You can see if the grammar police come after me. But okay, he's published Hot Toronto Magazine for 2 decades, owned an art gallery, emceed for Neil Diamond, The Who, Tina Turner, Bachman Turner Overdrive, and many more, owned and operated his own record label, Night Flight, produced a record album for Playboy magazine owner Hugh Hefner, published concert books, set up a celebratory Canada Day in Los Angeles, being a Juno judge, coordinated Toronto's Chocolate Ball and Chocolate Festival. That's why I have the chocolate here. And has been associate director of the Beaches Jazz Festival for 26 years.
Okay, that's
There's a lot there.
That's an old bio.
that
Hot
old?
Toronto's now 3 decades.
Okay, listen, we got to update this bio here. Okay, so the bottom line is we get the idea. Lots going on here. I'm going to play a song so we don't run out of time here. Just listen to me. Listen to this song, Joey, and tell me what you think about it.
I remember December, coldest night of the year. Just a few weeks to Christmas, and all I shared were tears. I remember December, when the whole world cried. Nothing stayed but the memories after the music died. All he wanted was a chance to make our dreams come true. He tried to be an example for me and
Whose voice am I hearing singing this song, Remember December?
A young Joey C.
A lot of your earlier jams are difficult to find. Like, I don't have the vinyl, but it's tough to find. But I did find you hear this, you can hear the crackle in the background. Somebody digitized this record here, and we get to hear some Joey C.
Some of them are available from different countries. I've had records released in England and Australia. I even had to buy them just to find them. But they're out there somewhere.
They're out there somewhere. And this song is about John Lennon.
It is. I wrote that right after he died, basically. I was really moved by the whole, everything that was going on. And for some reason, I just came up with that whole tune and that idea, and that the fact that it was winter and, it was one of those things going to be remembered.
Sure.
And we were in the studio. I was producing the Toronto Jive Bombers at the time at actually Moses Neimer Studios, Thunder Sound. And I had Patricia Dahlquist singing. I had Paula. I had a bunch of different people in the background. So I thought, wait a minute, I got time here. I thought, let's put everybody together. Let's see if we can come up with something. Barry Keane, Gordon Lightfoot's drummer, was on there.
Well, here's some John. I hate to say his name again, but he's a sweetheart. But David Marsden, I believe, was with John Lennon during this bed-in.
Yeah.
And Donaby too, maybe?
Yeah, and I got the album signed by John Lennon in bed.
Jeez. And shout out to Jerry Levitan, the teenager.
Oh, good old Jerry.
Jerry lives in this neighborhood.
Does he? Oh,
yeah, he was
hi,
at
Jerry.
He was at that TMLX event at Palma's Kitchen that you popped into.
I really didn't recognize a lot of people.
Well, it was busy room there. Busy
but
room.
This section here, this is from the concert here at Varsity. And, of course, that was from the album. And Yoko Ono approved me to do that, to use that. Anyway, so that was the story on that one. And
okay.
You would hear that one on the anniversary, just shortly after that. Every anniversary for
Remember
10 years,
December.
they would play that. Yeah.
All right, so my final question, because, again, we can't cover your entire life. It's sort of like watching Forrest Gump. It takes a couple hours to do that, okay? But
never heard of that one. Okay.
Big question for you. Where is the Mississauga Music Walk of Fame?
It's at Centennial Park in Port Credit.
Okay, I bike to Port Credit all the time.
Right behind the library.
Right. Okay, and there's
on the walk.
I do, and there's like a playground there. Am I
right next? Yeah,
right.
That walk that's right in front of the playground.
I'm gonna go check it out because you, my friend, have been inducted into the Mississauga Music Walk of Fame.
I'm there. I'm stoned right there.
Jeez. Okay. Well, I got to take a photo of that when maybe later, maybe next week. But I thought we'd close with Walk of Fame chat real quickly here on our way out here because you nominated Norman Jewison for his spot on the Walk of Fame on Hollywood Boulevard.
Correct.
And you wanted to do a Walk of Fame in Toronto.
I did, and because I was so involved with the operations in Los Angeles with Hollywood, and I knew how they do it. I knew what the protocol was and all that, and I really thought, well, we don't have one in Toronto. And the one thing I did, realize from day one was we can't do it outside. It's got to be inside. We have winters. They don't have winters.
Right.
That's a big difference. And anyway, I had the idea, and you can check it out. It was registered back 10 years before the actual Walk of Fame happened. And I couldn't get the mayor at that time, Art Eggleton,
Right.
to endorse it. But I already had the place to put it in. I already had
Where was going to be the place?
right inside Eaton Center across the walk, right through. That would have been the perfect place for it.
Yeah.
Nope, because Art Eggleton had a little walk or whatever star thing at the Sky Dome, which he was involved with, and that put the kibosh on me doing that. So the Eaton Center said, unless you get his support, we can't do it. I didn't get his support, so we couldn't do it.
Couldn't do it.
So there you are. 10 years later, it comes up like a whole new idea. Yeah, really? Okay, whatever.
So you had all this experience. I'm
always ahead of the game.
Yeah, but it's neat that finally you got into a Walk of Fame. Like Joey C. finally recognized in a Walk of Fame.
And
So
now I'm on the board of directors for that.
you're on the board of directors, and let's not bury the lead, Joey C. You're now in FOTM. You're a friend of Toronto Mike. You joined Dave Charles in this esteemed
This
list.
is a great club to be in.
The late, great John Donaby is in this club. The aforementioned David Marsden. A lot of people you know and love are in this club, and I'm glad to have you here, Joey.
It's a friendly gathering.
It's a friendly gathering. Ooh, how was this for you? Do you think, was there one story that you were driving here and you're like, I got to tell this story, and now that I'm playing you out, you're like, oh, I never got to that story?
No,
Or
because
did you cover all the hot
There'll be
spots?
1,000 more. There'll be 1,000 more. Just, you touched upon a couple of good ones.
Well, do you want to take any credit for the, what's the Robert Plant Sea of Love, Honey Drippers?
Well, that,
Do you want to take some credit for that?
that's a little bit, not much, but a little bit. Again, I was in the studio recording a group at the Grange Studios out in Pickering there, and we had extra time, and Freddie was the singer of that band. I said, listen, why don't we put a song together that you and I used to sing before, and Sea of Love we used to always do, as a classic.
Yeah.
And I thought, let's do something different. I want to do it different because I like the whole soft part of it, right? So it was always hard, come with me,
Yeah.
And I said, give it a soft feel to it, and but bump it up with the guitar. So we did that, and so we shopped it, and Private Stock picked it up, and it did really well. The weird part is, I'm at Medem one year, and I just happened to go into the Private Stock booth, and remember that came out as the Puppies. The group was called the Puppies. Mel Shaw
Puppies.
was going to produce it and create cartoon characters and the whole 9 yards. It was going to be like the Archie sort of idea.
Shout out to Andy Kim.
Yeah, great. Hi there, Andy. So this would have been the same idea, but it never came to fruition from that point. But
Yeah.
one thing I remember the most was I walked into a Private Stock, and I says, "Yeah," he says, "I'm on your label." And he goes, "What?" Yeah, he goes, "Joey C." And I goes, "No," he says, "The Puppies." I said, "The Puppies." And he goes, "Sea of Love?" And I goes, "Yeah, you're the singer?" He goes, "Yeah." And he was so excited about it. I go, "Whoa, okay." He goes, "You know what?" He says, "I'll tell you something. I'll tell you who liked that song." And I goes, "Who?" And he goes, "Jeff Beck." And I go, "Jeff Beck?" I goes, "Yeah, he's on our label too." I goes, "Well, how would Jeff Beck?" He goes, "I was playing it one time in the office, and he happened to come in, and he didn't know who that was. He liked the guitar break and the way we did the guitar, and he really liked it." And I goes, "Okay, that's cool. It's nice to know. You like that, right?" Well, go fast forward 2 months, 2 years later, or so years later, I'm listening to this TV, and MTV is on, or one of the TV channels,
Right.
and I'm listening to Sea of Love, and I'm going, "Who the hell is that?" And it's the Honey Drippers,
Yeah.
Jeff Beck.
I love that we closed with that because that's not a coincidence. We're not stupid, Joey. That's not a coincidence. And that brings us to the end of our 1,829th show. Go to torontomike.com for all your Toronto Mike needs, and Joey C. JoeyC.com. So JoeyCEE.com. That's where you go for all your Joey C needs, whatever they may be. Much love to all who made this possible. That's Great Lakes Brewery. Don't forget your beer, Joey. Palma Pasta. I've got your lasagna in the freezer. Nick Ieni's, RecycleMyElectronics.ca, and Ridley Funeral Home. You mentioned Stax Records earlier. We're going to be talking Stax and more in the next episode with Rob Bowman.